There's a lot of liquid exchanged in this film. Boys kissing boys, boys kissing on a lady. There's a lot of inappropriate action happening here, but considering the fact that we're in the modern era, I suppose monogamy is outdated anyways, right? And so is loving the opposite gender exclusively. I saw this film twice. The first time I watched it, I quickly came to the realization that Challengers is basic. Then upon seeing it once more, I came to the conclusion that I was being an idiot. Challengers is interesting because it's a trolley problem. The entire film is one huge trolley problem that's been carefully crafted by using this sport I was absolutely terrible at in high school. 6 letters, 1 word, tennis. The 3 main characters are all pieces of shit. Ironically, it kinda pays off tremendously. The payoff comes at the end, and it left me wondering, what was the point of all of this conflict if they're all cheerful and joyous in the end? Quick rundown of the entire plot of the movie. There's 3 tennis players, 2 boys and 1 girl. They're pretty alright, but among the 3, there's a love triangle. No surprise there, we've seen this trope used before. Tashi is married to Art, but they're not monogamous. Then there's Patrick, who used to be best friends with Art, but somewhere down the line, they stopped seeing eye to eye. Even though there was a point in time when these two were trying to run a train on Tashi. Oh, how the times have changed. Kinda like me in my college days when I heard the frat boys plotting how to run trains on each other, but you'd see them on campus pretending to be interested in bad bitches. But that's a story for another time. Art and Patrick were so close that back when they were boys, they would be in the same room and touch their pickles until pickle juice would explode from their pickle jars. However, that's not the case anymore. But hey, you know what they say, best friends make for even greater enemies. Tashi basically coaches Art, but there's a whole bunch of drama down the line when Patrick comes back around during the tournaments. He wants her to now coach him, but it'll be weird since she's now married to Art and they have a little kid. She basically scolds him for even suggesting such an idea, even though she continues to hook up with him whenever they have an argument. See, being toxic pays off after all. At first I thought Challengers is about tennis. I thought that these people just happen to be so passionate about wanting to be the next Djokovic and the next Serena Williams. Turns out I happen to be something I hardly am. It turns out that I was wrong. This film is about people, more specifically the lengths you're willing to take just to see someone's frown turn upside down. This is the mandatory part where I talk about it being about vigorous passion and a burning love that's so compassionate and tender, but if I was to say that, I'd be like Jim Carrey in that one movie, I'd be nothing but a liar. It sounds corny when I say it like that, but ultimately that's what it all boils down to. Complications all due to poor communication. Throw an identity crisis in there and this is what you get. From the second act of the film, the narrative starts to introduce this plot about how there's been some unfair play. Matter of fact, it's just a commentary about how there's a lot of sports rigging. Boxing matches are fixed and apparently so is tennis. But you have to figure out why she did this. There's always intent behind everything, there's always a reason. See, Tashi has conflicting feelings about Art. He's basically her lapdog. If she tells this guy to drown himself in a vat of acid, trust me, he'd do it. Is Art a simp? Yes, but I mean, look at Tashi, you can't really blame him. Man was mesmerized by her when she mounted him. Bro looked like she put him in a trance. Guess that coochie hits different, huh? Anyways, I digress. Tashi ironically hates him and loves him at the same time. She rewards him for doing what she says. I mean, for crying out loud, she let this soft-spoken man impregnate her. But from their interactions, you'd be surprised that he's even capable of doing a bold, decisive action such as baby making. Put yourself in the position of Tashi, you, the viewer. We've all been in her position before. A conflict of interest often makes us do things that we wouldn't normally do. This entire film is basically Justin and Luca hinting to us that there's some shaky real life events happening in their personal lives that inspired this story. Which is good, but then at the same time this movie, although it's dancing on the tightrope of interesting and peculiar, this movie kinda comes across as a huge mindfuck. Calling this film romance and only romance is the equivalent of calling 50 Shades of Grey every woman's fantasy. A lot of heads will turn and a lot of eyebrows will be raised. But there's always a but. After a while, you start to notice something. The problem arises when you figure out that Tashi is extremely selfish. Like, she herself is a pretty good player, she eats, breathes, and practically only talks about tennis. If I ever met a girl like this, I'd be bored after 5 business days, but hey, that's just me. So it kind of makes you wonder why she's bothering to push Art, who's basically getting more and more mediocre the older he gets. Maybe it's like her fetish, she likes seeing people unlock their full potential because it tickles her fancy or something. Selfishness is a theme that's pretty prevalent throughout this film's runtime. Selfishness is the reason why Art told her that he wanted to retire after the match regardless of the outcome. It's the exact same thing with Patrick. Patrick is lousy. He's not even ranked among the top 100, but he's here chasing after Tashi just so that he can say he stole her from Art. It's a selfish desire that's pretty vain. That's why I said at first you may think that this film is about tennis, but not really. The real prize here isn't even the tennis trophy. The accolade these two men are fighting for is Tashi's affection. But let's be honest. You have to have low self-esteem to be wanting the affection of someone who has no problem sneaking around like a thief in the night for her own pleasure. There's a scene during the last act of the film where she leaves her husband in the hotel room to go and plead with another man, the man who's basically his mortal nemesis, to play a dubious game just to make her mans happy. Am I the only one who found that to be bizarre? Like, come on Tashi, don't be a hoe. Be classy or something. At least strive to be a classy hoe. Just because you're not monogamous, it doesn't make you have to let another man's finger slip between your thighs, and you're making it seem like it's the most selfless act in the world. Tashi is the type of person to pay for your meal when you're broke and hang it over your head for the rest of your life. She'll tell all your boys how she was feeding you when you were drifting around town like a stray dog, even though she only fed you that one time. She has a kid, and her kid already is showing signs of resentment, all because her mom won't stop talking about it. By it, I mean tennis. I'm sure this has to be a symptom of some mental disorder, cause ain't no way, bruh. Tashi's logic is extremely flawed, but that's precisely the point. When feelings are involved, logic tends to be nowhere in sight. Tashi is the same person who always is like, 15, love. You should stretch before the match tomorrow, Art. I think you're holding back, Art. Stop being gentle with it. Go harder. Not that kind of hard, you sickos. Like, I don't know, Tashi, how about you go and develop a personality, you fucking narcissist? Narcissism is a character trait all three of them possess. That's what the challenger's problem is. Choosing a person you want to see happy, knowing they're pretty self-centered at their core, and the other person is also kinda an asshole. This is like one of the worst catch-22s to be in. Matter of fact, your intentions may not even be genuine cause you two are a piece of shit, but you've let infatuation delude your judgment. There's an interesting exchange when Art and Patrick are in the sauna and Art tries to dominate Patrick by reminding him that he's a loser. This entire conversation was basically a metaphoric and figurative dick measuring contest. That's why it took place in the sauna. The answer to the challenger's problem is that feelings are complicated, and so are people. Passion is addictive, and in this case, so are people. Interpersonal relationships are like tournaments, they are full of challenges, and the ones who conquer them are more than just mere challengers. Or maybe this entire film is an allegory about crappy people being crappy in order to attain something which they believe is not so crappy. I don't know about you, but it makes sense to me. Either that or this is essentially a story about how fucked up people deserve each other.
The Big Dipper.